Hey guys, welcome to my channel. This is a Diablo 4 Necromancer build guide. Specifically, it's for a Blood Necromancer that utilizes using as many minions as possible while equipping them all with thorns in order to do as much retaliation damage as possible, while using blood magic in order to fortify, heal your minions and heal yourself. Then you use a certain set of skills that allows you to respawn your skeletons endlessly and forever. And whenever those skeletons take damage, they always deal damage back to the attacker. So you're indirectly dealing retaliation damage without ever using your own health. Then you use your ice mages to freeze your enemies, and your golem to stun lock them. I'll show you how to build your blood necromancer from level 1 upwards, how to get as many skeletons as possible on the field, how to equip those skeletons with as many thorns as possible, and how you use your skills to keep your skeletons alive forever, and forever healing yourself. This build is great for PvE, PvP, solo, or in a party. Like and subscribe if you feel like it, or don't. Thanks for watching regardless. Let's get straight into the tutorial. Now I have two different structured ways for this build to work, but I want to stress you can play around with it and have fun and end up with some pretty good results yourself. So I'll show you my structured builds, then I'll give you some tips on how some other builds can work, while using the same framework that I'm laying out here. I've reset all my skill points so you can see how I upgrade my character and why. The first skill you're going to want to learn from level 1 upwards is Hemorrhage. Generate 8 essence, burst an enemy's blood dealing 206 damage. Hemorrhage has a 20% chance to spawn a blood orb, and a blood orb will heal you for 15% of your life. You only need to spend 1 skill point in order to unlock your core skills to deliver powerful attacks. This is where at level 2 you'll put your skill points into Blood Surge. I know it says I have a point in Bloodlines, but that's just because of the gear I have on at the moment. Blood Surge steals life from your enemies, then releases a powerful AoE attack. Then putting a point into Enhanced Blood Surge allows you to heal while using it. Then you upgrade to Supernatural Blood Surge, which allows you to fortify every time you use it. Fortification increases your life beyond its max, meaning if you fortify consistently you can have up to 200% of your max health, making you just genuinely tanky. So upwards to level 7 or 8, level into Hemorrhage and Blood Surge, alongside those aforementioned extra skills. Then in early game at a lower level, this is where you can kind of branch out if you choose to do so. You have 2 skills that you can choose from, Corpse Explosion or Blood Mist. I'd wager that Corpse Explosion is probably more useful early game. Corpse Explosion just allows you to blow up dead enemies, but once you get Blighted Corpse Explosion, you leave behind a shadow AoE that does damage over time. And spamming this while all your skeletons are still alive does lead to a lot of overall damage quickly, especially in the early game. It's a lot of fun but slowly gets less useful as you get to a higher level, cause our skills and gear is all about blood magic and thorns. At around level 30 you're probably going to want to reset your skills and level into Blood Mist, which makes you invincible, heals you, and constantly does damage to your enemies. Then you'll level into Enhanced Blood Mist, and then Dreadful Blood Mist. This will leave corpses littered all over the place, which you can use to constantly respawn your skeletons. Of course you can just level into Blood Mist from the beginning. You'll see both versions of the end result regardless. So level into Hemorrhage, then Blood Surge, making sure you get Enhanced Hemorrhage, then Initiate's Hemorrhage, Enhanced Blood Surge, and Supernatural Blood Surge. Then level into Corpse Explosion or Blood Mist. You'll also want to get Skeletal Mastery to level 3, which increases the damage and life of your skeletal warriors. Then we're going to ignore curse skills entirely and not waste any points on them, other than maximizing Skeleton Mage Mastery, which just increases the life and damage of your skeletal mages. Now at this point with Book of the Dead you can really use any skeletal warriors that you want, but you will end up with skeletal defenders in the end. And I choose Cold for the skeletal mages so they can freeze enemies, and I add the Vulnerable perk. After spending enough skill points you'll unlock your core passive skills for this class. Put a point into Gruesome Mending, then into Transfusion. This will allow your skeletons to heal from blood orbs. We'll level up the passive skill tree a bit more later. For now focus your levels on Hemorrhage, Blood Surge, and Blood Mist or Corpse Explosion, while leveling your skeletal warriors to max and your skeletal mages to max. Now you've unlocked your ultimate skill. You want to level into Army of the Dead, which will cause an army of the dead to do damage to everything around you. Then you'll want to max out your Golem Mastery, as it'll be your primary tank. And remember, with the Golem, you have to assign it as an actual skill on the hotbar. You go down to the bottom of your skills and there it is. And we've assigned the Golem. Then you'll want to level into Prime Army of the Dead, which leaves behind corpses every time you use your ultimate skill. This allows you to raise more skeletons. Then unlock Supreme Army of the Dead. So if your whole skeleton army has been wiped out, you can just use your ultimate skill to raise them all again. Then down here are passives to boost your skeleton's power. Level into Inspiring Leader, then into Hellbent Commander. You can keep upgrading your skeleton's passives, or you can go back and put your points into your Macabre skills. You're gonna end up doing both, it just depends which order you want to do it in. You'll inevitably want to get Coalesce Blood to max, so if you're over 80% life, your blood skills deal 18% more damage. Then for your final core skill, you're going to want to unlock Kalen's Edict. So if you haven't taken damage in the last 3 seconds, your minions gain increased attack speed. This goes upwards to at least 30% attack speed if you have 7 minions out, which you can see I have 10 at the moment. And I'll show you how to increase your maximum minion capacity. For your final passives, max out Transfusion and Drain Vitality, and mix your last levels between your minion passives and your blood passives. Now I'll show you specific key pieces of gear that you want to look out for. You'll inevitably find legendary items that increase your maximum minion count. If it's on a piece of armor, it increases your minions by 2. If it's on an amulet, it increases it by 3. And you can use artifices to transfer it from your armor to an amulet. It's very easy to do, I'll just quickly show you how. So you can go to the Occultist, then go across to Extract Aspect, choose your legendary item. You can see what aspect you're going to get from breaking your legendary item. In this case it increases Bloodlance, then just extract aspect. Then you can put that aspect on something else, and there you've created a legendary piece of gear. So extract the aspect off the armor if you find it on armor, and put it onto an amulet because it increases its effectiveness by 50%. So instead of having 4 defenders, I have 7 instead, which is pretty awesome. You're not going to want to be too specific with your gear until you hit level 50, because you're forever going to be changing it every time you level up. But if you socket emeralds into every single piece of armor that you have, it'll increase your maximum thorns, which increases the damage you do back to enemies when you get hit. Then in Book of the Dead, choose defenders, then increase the amount of thorns that defenders inherit from you. I'd suggest equipping skulls into your weapons, as it gives you life on kills. Then you can go full emerald and get as many thorns as possible on your armor if you like. Or alternatively, you can equip rubies into your armor, which just increases your maximum life. But your blood skills are all based off percentages when healing, not fixed numbers, so this can work out to be pretty good. I'll show you the differences between Corpse Explosion and Blood Mist in action. And I'll show you my build soloing some of a dungeon and beating the boss. Let's see how this all works together in action. You can see how overpowered my little skeleton army is, I barely have to do anything. That black fog that kept showing up was the result of Corpse Explosion, which is the AoE damage over time. I didn't get much of a chance to show it off though because my army was a bit too efficient. I'll use it a little bit in this dungeon but then switch to Blood Mist. The worst thing about Corpse Explosion honestly is probably its animation and the fact you can't see anything whenever you're using it, but it's still pretty fun. Even though I haven't leveled or spec'd into shadow damage at all, the damage over time is still pretty effective. Although I'm going to switch my build and use the Blood Mist version, as it's much more effective when soloing strong enemies or bosses, especially in the later game. And that's how I've quickly rebuilt my class for now. Let's go fight a boss. Just a quick side note, you should be using a blood golem. I should be using a blood golem, as this build is built around constantly having max health or more than max health, but I just have the iron golem out because I think he's neat. That little bubble shield pops up too when I take too much damage. It's part of my gear and makes me invincible for about 5 seconds when in that bubble. It's very useful. I'll just quickly gather up all these enemies.
I'm out of essence. I need time to do that.
As you can see, during that boss fight I didn't have to use a single healing pot, and there's just a bunch of them around. Really recommend this build. It's easy to use, it's fun, and it's extremely effective. Anyway, thanks for watching my TED talk on my Necromancer blood build. Whether you like or subscribe, like I said before, that's up to you. Just thank you so much for watching. Stay safe.